My name is Sarah, an African that got adopted by my white parents. I would like to share my story of how it all began after my adoption. I remember the first night I slept in that house. I was 7, and the walls were too white, too quiet. I felt like a shadow, like I didn't belong, and everyone could see it. My foster parents had 3 children of their own, blonde, blue-eyed kids who laughed like the world had already promised them everything. And then there was me, the only black child in the house. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I should speak at all. The kitchen smelled of baked cookies and cleaning sprays. I felt small, invisible, like I was living in someone else's postcard. At first, I tried to fit in. I washed dishes until my hands burned, I cleaned rooms until they gleamed, hoping maybe they'd see me as part of the family. I mimicked the way the other kids talked, the way they laughed, even their little habits, cutting my food a certain way, wearing my hair like theirs. But no matter what I did, I was different. Their jokes sometimes cut deeper than I expected, innocent laughter that reminded me I didn't belong, casual comments that made me shrink inside. "You sure you like this cereal? I don't think kids like you usually eat stuff like this," one of the children said once. I laughed it off, but the sting lingered. Every compliment felt like a reminder of the distance between us. School wasn't much easier. Walking through hallways where everyone stared, whispers following me like shadows, I learned quickly to be quiet, to make myself small. Sometimes, I'd sit in the bathroom just to cry in peace, wondering why I had to feel this way. At home, I buried myself in chores, afraid to touch the wrong thing, to say the wrong word, to make my presence too noticeable. I kept asking myself if love, real love, would ever feel like it could belong to me. There were moments, though, that cut through the loneliness. The quiet ones, when my foster mom smiled at me after I set the table just right, or when my foster dad let me sit in the front seat of the car for a change, like I mattered. I held on to those moments, like tiny flames in the dark, because they reminded me that maybe the world wasn't all cold stares and whispered insults. Even in the loneliness, I discovered a quiet strength. I watched, I listened, I learned who people were and who I could be. I realized that my value wasn't defined by their acceptance. I started to speak up, small at first, testing the waters, claiming little corners of my existence, a favorite chair in the living room, a book I refused to share, a secret habit of drawing on scraps of paper when no one was looking. Each little act felt like a small rebellion, a quiet assertion that I was here. I was real. I was present. And yet, the tension never fully left the house. Their laughter sometimes felt like it belonged to someone else, their whispers like they were conspiring in a language I didn't know. I learned to navigate it all with caution, like walking through a house of glass, trying not to shatter, trying not to break. I studied their faces, their moods, memorizing patterns, looking for signs of genuine warmth, but there was always the unspoken question hovering above me: do you really belong here? Then one evening, everything changed. We were at the dinner table, the house quiet except for the clinking of forks. A single careless comment, one that wasn't meant to hurt, sparked something inside me I didn't expect. I froze, my heart racing, my mind spinning, and for the first time, I felt the urge to fight back, not with my fist, but with words, with truth. I could feel the room tense, the air thick, and I knew this moment would define me in ways I wasn't ready to face yet. My hands trembled slightly as I set my fork down, my mind racing for the right words. I could feel all those years of smallness, invisibility, and silence boiling up inside me. Before I continue, have you supported me with your likes and subscription? I appreciate your kindness. And as I opened my mouth to speak, the silence hung like a weight above us. The room seemed to hold its breath. My heart pounded, my chest felt tight, and I realized that whatever I said next, whatever happened after, would change everything, because for the first time, I wasn't just surviving. I was about to stand. I took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm inside me. The words I had rehearsed 100 times in my head felt heavy, almost foreign, but I forced them out anyway. "I'm tired of pretending I don't notice," I said, my voice shaking but louder than I thought it could be. "I'm not invisible. I'm here. I matter too." The silence hit like a wave. My foster dad's fork paused midair. My foster mom's eyes widened. The kids froze, their laughs dying on their lips. For a moment, I thought I had made a terrible mistake. Maybe I had crossed a line I wasn't supposed to cross. Maybe this was the moment they'd decide I didn't belong here at all. But then something unexpected happened. My foster mom's face softened, just a little, like she was seeing me for the first time. My foster dad exhaled slowly, setting his fork down with a careful, almost hesitant gesture. The kids looked at me differently, some with confusion, some with curiosity, like they were seeing a new version of me, someone who refused to shrink any longer. It wasn't perfect. The tension in the room didn't vanish. The words that had been unspoken for years, the quiet judgments, the jokes, the subtle exclusions, still lingered. But for the first time, I felt a shift. I realized that speaking my truth had created a crack, just a small crack, but enough light could get in. That night, I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word, every reaction. Fear still lingered, a quiet hum in my chest, but there was also something new, a sense of power. A sense that I could claim my space without apology. I thought about the other kids and wondered what they were thinking. Did they see me differently now? Would they ever understand how small I had felt for so long? Over the next few days, things didn't magically change. Some of the jokes continued, some of the whispers lingered. But I noticed glances of respect, small acknowledgements that I was present, that I had a voice. I started speaking up more, answering questions at the dinner table, asserting my opinions, sharing stories about myself. It was exhausting, sometimes terrifying, but it felt alive. Then came the day that truly tested me. My foster brother, the oldest, cornered me in the living room. His face was a mixture of anger and confusion. "Why are you acting like you belong here?" he spat. "You don't even fit in. You're not one of us." For a moment, I felt that old familiar panic, the feeling of being too much, of being different, of being alone. But then, deep down, something inside me hardened. I didn't answer right away. I studied him, measured him, and for the first time, I didn't shrink. I simply said, "Maybe I don't fit your idea of this house. But I do belong here. I'm not going anywhere." He stared at me, uncomprehending, and then walked away without another word. My chest heaved. I felt triumph and fear all at once. The house had shifted, just a little, but I knew this was only the beginning. Because as I lay in bed that night, I heard muffled voices from the kitchen. My foster parents were talking in hushed, serious tones, and I caught words like behavior and boundaries and something about next steps. My stomach turned. Something was coming. Something bigger than words at the table. And I realized I wasn't just fighting for respect anymore. I was about to face a test I wasn't sure I was ready for. The house that had once felt like a postcard of white walls and quiet laughter now felt like a battlefield. And I was right in the middle of it, with nowhere to hide. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of hushed whispers downstairs. My stomach twisted. I didn't know if I should go down or hide under my blanket like I used to when things got too heavy. But something inside me, the part that had refused to shrink, pushed me to my feet. I had to face it. Downstairs, the air felt thicker than ever. My foster parents were seated at the kitchen table, papers spread out in front of them, faces serious. I could tell right away this wasn't a casual conversation. My heart pounded. My foster brother, the one who had cornered me, sat silently in his chair, arms crossed. The other kids hovered nearby, watching. Waiting. My foster mom finally looked up at me. "We need to talk," she said, her voice low, calm but firm. I nodded, trying to steady my shaking hands. My mind raced. What now? I had spoken up before. I had claimed space. Hadn't that been enough? The conversation that followed was different. They talked about rules, boundaries, expectations, but beneath the words, I felt a tension that went deeper than chores or behavior. There were comments, veiled and subtle, about how I acted, how I spoke, how I didn't always fit in. Every word felt like a test. Every sentence a reminder that my presence was still something they were unsure about. I felt a familiar anger bubbling up, but I also felt something else, clarity. I realized that this house, this family, this place I had been pushed to survive in, wasn't just about fitting in. It was about being seen, being understood, and refusing to let anyone, even those who were supposed to care for me, diminish me. When it was my turn to speak, I took a deep breath and said the first words that came to my mind: "I'm not here to fit your idea of me. I'm here to be me. I'm not asking for permission, and I'm not hiding anymore." The room went quiet. My foster dad's hands clenched on the table. My foster mom's eyes softened again, but there was tension there, uncertainty. My foster brother's jaw tightened, his gaze sharp. I knew they were processing me, weighing me, trying to see if I would break, or if I could stand. And then, just as I thought the moment had passed, I heard a sound that made my heart stop. A knock at the front door. Strong. Insistent. My foster mom frowned. "Who could that be at this hour?" she muttered, rising from her chair. I stepped back instinctively, a cold feeling running down my spine. Something in the way she hesitated made me realize that whatever was behind that door, it wasn't just a visitor. It wasn't just another person coming in. This was something that could change everything I had fought to hold on to. And as the door slowly creaked open, I felt my world shift again. The door swung open, and my heart leapt into my throat. Standing there wasn't a stranger or a neighbor. It was someone I didn't expect, someone who carried both fear and authority in their presence. My foster mom stiffened. My foster dad's face went pale. I instinctively took a step back, my mind racing, my chest tight. The figure looked at me for a long moment, and in that silence, I felt every past injustice I'd endured, every whispered insult, every moment I had felt invisible. They weren't here to be gentle. They weren't here to console. And yet, in that moment, I realized something crucial: none of it, none of the fear, the judgment, the silence, had the power to define me unless I let it. "What's going on?" my foster dad finally said, his voice shaky. "I need to speak with the child in your care," the visitor said calmly, almost piercingly. The room froze. I didn't move. The air was thick, electric with tension, but I felt a strange calm rising inside me. All those nights I had cried alone in the bathroom, all those days I had scrubbed floors and held my silence, all those moments of feeling less than or other, they had prepared me for this. I was no longer just surviving. I was awake. I was aware. I was ready. I stepped forward. My voice was steady now, strong, even if my hands trembled. "I'm here," I said simply. And in those two words, I felt the weight of the world shift. It was not just a declaration of presence, it was a declaration of self. The visitor nodded, almost imperceptibly, and motioned for me to follow. I glanced back at my foster parents. They looked worried, uncertain, but also, I realized, a little proud. They had seen the spark in me before anyone else. And now, they saw that I could carry it into the world outside these walls. As I walked toward the door, I felt the house change behind me. The white walls no longer felt cold and unwelcoming. They felt smaller somehow, like the space I had claimed inside them was mine, unshakable. The kitchen, the bedrooms, the laughter and whispers, they were all part of my story now. Not just obstacles, but lessons. Not just reminders of difference, but reminders of resilience. The visitor turned, and for a fleeting second, I saw a flicker of recognition in their eyes, an understanding that went beyond words. I didn't know what lay ahead. I didn't know how the world outside would respond, or what challenges awaited me. But I knew one thing: I would not shrink. I would not hide. I would not be invisible again. And as the door closed behind us, I felt something I had never felt before, the quiet, steady pulse of hope. The knowledge that I had survived. The knowledge that I had fought. The knowledge that my story, my truth, was finally mine to tell. Because being the only black child in a white house had taught me one thing: belonging isn't given. It's claimed. And I had claimed it, with every ounce of me. If this story touched you in any way, don't forget to like the video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. I want to know your thoughts, your experiences, your voice. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel. More powerful stories are on the way, and I don't want you to miss a single one.